The Justice Department getting called out for a potentially massive abuse of power. The FBI raiding Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe's apartment over a diary said to belong to President Biden's daughter. Project Veritas says it was given the diary last year but could not verify its authenticity. A website later published its contents online. But what it's not clear is what laws, if any, James O'Keefe broke. Politico, The Washington Post, and The Wall Street Journal all asking questions about government overreach. Even the ACLU has raised concerns. All right, so Kaylee, the applicable analogy here is that imagine if the Trump administration, during his time as president, raided the homes of New York Times editors after they had published or even investigated into his tax records.
That's right. I mean, I remember the hit piece New York Times. They would come and every week leading up to the election, here's a bombshell from Mr. Trump's personal tax returns. Imagine if President Trump said, okay, let's raid the New York Times. He didn't do that. Circling back to what we began the show with, imagine if I said defy the federal courts as Psaki did. He never did that, but yet he's supposed to be the great authoritarian regime who is attacking the press. I don't think so. This is so out of the bounds. And Merrick Garland, he even published guidelines in July, and the Wall Street Journal reporting this, that narrowed the Department of Justice's ability to seize information from reporters, saying, quote, we will no longer use compulsory legal process unless there's an exception, like an imminent terrorist attack. Well, what was James O'Keefe doing? Not an imminent terrorist attack. He was actually complying with the subpoena. He was in the process of working with them. He didn't steal Ashley Biden's diary. It was given to him. But yet the DOJ goes after him. Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot. And also, where are the reporters calling this out and standing up on behalf of another investigative journalist, James O'Keefe? I don't hear them. They're very silent.
Thankfully, though, that group is growing. There's been a complaint filed with the Free Press or whatever. And Julie, to Kaylee's point, he was handcuffed in the hallway while complying with a subpoena with no charges filed against him, and his 2 cell phones were taken. Now, among the data in his cell phones is a lot of other attorney-client privileged information, also information that falls under the First Amendment, as well as private donor information. And he and his team begged the FBI, look, pause your search while we call out the information that is protected from the government's eyes, to which the FBI said no and took it anyway.
The fact remains this, that it is not against the law for a journalist to obtain information unlawfully. If it were, every large media organization would be behind bars. Because, I mean, let's face it, is it ethical? No, it is unethical for anyone to illegally, unlawfully, whatever you want to call it, obtain information. We don't do that here, but do the newspapers do? Have the New York Times done it?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yes.
So, I mean, come on. I mean, let's call it for what it is. You know, it's only convenient to, say that it's not okay when it obviously has to do with something like Project Veritas. But when, a liberal-leaning newspaper like the New York Times does it, nobody's complaining. Nobody's talking about that. So obviously double-edged sword here.
Mm-hmm. And to clarify my comment, so on Monday, the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press filed a motion for the court to unseal the documents that were the basis of this search warrant. Now, Todd, to Kaylee's point about AG Merrick Garland issuing parameters that were supposed to tighten up the loopholes that the government can go and search reporters and the like, really what this shows us is that it expands the government overreach, and it narrows the reporters' rights and privileges and protections over their investigative materials.
And that really does get to the bigger picture here, which is absolutely frightening. And kudos to the ACLU, obviously not an ideological partner of Project Veritas, but at least sticking up for this, because the closer and closer we get to government overreach like this, the closer and closer we get to communism. This is the stuff we see in communist countries. And this is absolutely frightening for anybody who cares about journalism, anybody who cares about freedom, anybody who cares about America. This is not the foundation on which our country is based. Stuff like this absolutely cannot happen.
Morgan.
Yeah, I just remember back in the Obama administration, Cheryl Atkinson had her computers and her phones illegally spied on by the Obama administration's DOJ. Same people are in charge during the Biden years.
So true.
Ooh, it's as if it's Halloween. I'm going to go hide under the bed. Okay, just ahead.